Welcome back. CyberSpace. Empirical trading. Do you know what I mean? So they're like empirical trading. Welcome back to the CyberSpace podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Empirical Training Podcast, CyberSpace. Welcome back, because I know you've been listening to the previous ones, and this one is very exciting because Empirical Training, the persona you may have seen online who share tips about cybersecurity, personal privacy, how you can get into the industry and how you can progress as a cybersecurity professional, have hit a real milestone. We have created what we kind of set to do from the very beginning, and we finished our first cybersecurity course. So congratulations, gentlemen.
Hey, let's go.
W's in the chat.
Yeah, we need some
W's.
sound effects as well.
Yeah, I know.
W's in-
Shit, I should have done some sound effects, shouldn't I?
Where's the sound engine?
On the brand.
We'll get them in a bit.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But yeah, so you probably know us for now. The sound effects are coming.
Yeah.
Rob, who to his origin story, started cybersecurity after not quite making it as a professional footballer, like most footballers don't, and found himself a real calling in cybersecurity. Then as a security team lead, and now a security consultant. We've got Vaughan, who's our automation specialist. He does all things to do with the cusp of AI and making our lives a lot easier as a security analyst by automating and improving efficiency and scale. And we also have AJ, who the third empirical trainer, who is the incident response specialist, working for a lot of high-profile financial organizations, still see it on the front lines daily, seeing the attacks. And then myself, Josh, product specialist, and ultimately colleague and friend of the rest of the empirical trainers from when we first met. So I want to bring us back to origin story. Long intro today, sorry, but I wanted to bring us into the origin story of how did empirical training start? Why? Who had the idea first, and how did you begin to recruit this crack team of individuals?
The cyber motley crew. Yeah, I had the original idea. I was working at the last place that I was at in my corporate job, and just had that entrepreneurial itch still after having that business way back when. I've just always wanted to do something for myself, and we have spoken about it a few times, but being the underdog, and when I first started to have the idea to even break into the industry, I was lucky enough to have a mentor. But if there was a place where I could go and have that community spirit and spend time with people that are all striving for the same goal, that would be absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, had the idea to start an education company. And then originally, I think I bumped into AJ one night out for food, and we were talking about some stuff. Do you remember?
Yeah, no, I was going to say it was slightly before that. I was out going for a run down Cardiff Bay, and I ran past, and you were recording a music video, because that's the entrepreneur spirit. He's always doing something different. He was recording a music video for his friend who was a DJ. DJ
Wait, so
Pro,
paint the
actually,
scene,
baby.
What have we got?
Say
Loads
it
of
again.
I was actually doing. There was dancers. There was a dance group there at the time,
Yeah,
and I was
dancers,
doing.
He had
I was doing
he had a
BTS.
box on his shoulder and stuff. It was like the big music video that you can imagine. And I was just running past, and we stopped, and we had a brief chat then about well, we hadn't seen each other for a while then. So we had a brief chat about what was going on in our lives and stuff like that. And then obviously we kept in touch over WhatsApp, and then we met up. And we had for food. I think we were just out. I think it was my birthday, wasn't it? I was just about to go to Dubai, and we bumped into you guys. Yeah, and we had a chat about what we wanted to do with a type of education business, because I mentioned that I'd been thinking about some kind of like small business, kind of like cybersecurity tool that could protect small businesses. But when we discussed it, and Robbie mentioned that there was too many moving parts, and that an education business made more sense, and I agreed with that then. And yeah, we both shared that entrepreneurship spirit, which has kind of kept us together, really. And yeah, that's how it started for us.
Yeah, that was the genesis. So we were just pitching a few little ideas, and then Vaughan and I were working at the same company, and I spoke to him about it, and then yeah, Vaughan was like,
Yeah.
I'm in. I
Yeah,
like the idea. I like the sound of it.
I always
How long
wanted
did
to do. What's that?
How long did it take to you to say yes? Because that sounds like you
Ah,
pretty.
honestly, yeah, it doesn't take me very long to make any decision. As soon as I think it's a good idea, I'm all in. But I had always been doing my own entrepreneurial type stuff as well, always trying to start little businesses here and there. And I thought before speaking to Robbie about it, I should probably do some sort of cybersecurity training. Like, I've always been a mentor to the people I've worked with. I like teaching people, so it just made sense to do some sort of cybersecurity teaching approach. And then when me and Robbie were working together, he mentioned he had a similar sort of idea, and I spoke to AJ about it. I hadn't met AJ at that point, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's get the band together."
It's always a bit of a risque convo in a corporate job, speaking on Teams, talking about, scheming and starting another business. It always feels a little bit
It's a
wrong,
good job
doesn't
the
it?
office is
It's
quiet.
like, yeah. So we were kind of, it was a bit of like a tentative conversation where we weren't really sure who was going to strike
Yeah.
first. Oh, I'm thinking about this, and hypothetically, would you want to? And then it was like, right, I'll speak to you on WhatsApp. Boom, you have these WhatsApp conversations.
Take it off
and you're like,
company
nah,
resources.
yeah. Well, if we're
Already
talking
teams.
hypothetically,
All the insider threat tools are flagging you and Vaughan up massively. They're going to steal our IP and start their own business.
yeah, 100%.
But it makes a lot of sense, this though, doesn't it? I think education is a huge part of cybersecurity, and especially with us all coming different directions. AJ taught me to how to get my first cybersecurity job, literally by feeding me resources, drip feeding me the stuff that I wanted to do. So when he came, AJ approached me, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but I was kind of like, I was quite hesitant. I think I've been a part of a few business ideas that had kind of fizzled out. A t-shirt company with a guy who's super talented, makes some fantastic designs, but what the fuck do I know about t-shirts?
Yeah.
Did stuff for a bit. That was good fun, but eventually the fun was sucked out of it by the fact that it was like I'm trying to be a business or whatever. But yeah, I was like, oh, I'll absolutely come to the meetings and I'll hear what's going on. And I heard some very lofty ambitions initially being tossed about. But yeah,
I think that's what it was when we had the conversation. That I knew that we would go down the road where we wanted kind of a face of a podcast, and you've always been interested in being a radio DJ. Like when we were in school, it was something you were always interested in. And I knew you were good at it, but I know you were reluctant because you hadn't been an analyst for a while. So analyst-based education didn't seem to fit into like what you were doing at the time. But no, I think it definitely worked out for the best that you joined in. And yeah, now you're the host of the #1 cybersecurity podcast in the world.
Facts, big facts.
Number one, food.
Yeah, what was that in the Philippines? Yeah, in the Philippines, isn't it? Number 52.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh my god, we've made it already.
that's cool.
There was a lot of overlap with my new current role because, like I say, I haven't been a security analyst for a while. I accidentally got out of it very quickly while I was trying to go into digital forensics. Took a little side road into sales engineering, and I haven't actually come back to doing it properly. But there's a lot of enablement stuff that I do, which, to be honest, is probably at an even lower level. I teach a lot of salespeople about cybersecurity, what they need to know, and the kind of concepts of risk and everything, which is a bit tricky. And then the more fun thing is actually talking to professionals at conferences and giving those pieces. So I've seen more and more as we've kind of gone through this, that like the way that I could help contribute to it. And I think this is why there's lofty ambitions, Rob. When you first started saying, "Hey, we're going to build up this course," and "Hey, we're gonna look to it's going to be this big and it's going to rival these." And I remember sitting there thinking, is it crawl, walk, run? What happened to that? It seems like we're going straight for the end. But then, year and a half, and this is that huge milestone, right? Where we've actually created the first piece of what we want to do. Not just we've done a lot of great stuff in the discords and the communities of helping people with direct advice, one-on-one. AJ writes CVs. We've got people interviews, help them with interview prep. But this feels like this is something we've kind of created, and it's going to be there, and it's going to be relevant for quite a bit of time to help people get into the industry without having to have that much of a touch from us. That scalability is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a tasty bit of delusional optimism at the time, but I don't know. I did have just a bit of an inkling that things were going to go well because like us four together, the Cyber Motley crew, we spoke about a solid little structure that we were going to execute for the social media plan, and even like I thought that was a big ask when we first had that meeting talking about socials, thinking, oh, it'd be great if we could get, I think it was 20,000 in a year, wasn't it? Or was it 10,000?
I said 10K originally, and AJ was like, "Oh no, that'll be easy. Let's try double. Let's do 20." I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure, boys. I'm really not sure. I don't know if you'll get that sort of traction." And then, and then look at us now. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
nuts,
pushing
man.
up to 950,000 across all platforms. So we appreciate everybody that is supporting us, and it means a lot to us. It was totally unexpected. That's why if we can prove it to you, because we've got meeting notes that dawn back to when Empirical Training started, and we made our first post and was like, okay, 10,000 seems like a good number. 20,000, yeah, why not? And
I think we were joking at one point when we were like, road to 1 milli. Now we're really road to 1 milli. And I don't even know if we should celebrate it, because I know how fickle social media can be, because I don't know. I don't know. Maybe TikTok will be gone at some point, and I think like Meta's always going to be sticking around. I don't think we'll ever lose our socials for Meta, but
more reason to
hell
celebrate,
of an achievement. So
more reason to celebrate if it's not going to be.
I guess so.
Smell the flowers while they're still there. But
true.
Well, they're still smelling good.
Yeah. Although I once gave my mum a pair of flowers for Mother's Day, and she still got them 5 years later. She dried them all off. So my mum has defeated that. Yep.
I thought you were going to say they were plastic.
Yeah, you could do that.
They don't smell like. I'll tell you that. They look like they're quite gothic. These like really black roses, but sidetracked, absolutely sidetracked.
Yeah, even at the start of that. Start of last year, we were talking about the social media plan, and we basically said we're going to try and post every single day for 12 months. Let's see where it gets us. If we get to 20,000 followers, it will be unreal. And then we just need to reach out to some of the people that follow us in our audience and see if we can help them break into the industry, because that's the goal, isn't it? It's the education company. We needed help back when we were first starting to get into the industry. So it's time for us to give back, because we've got some experience under our belt. But then we also were speaking about this course that we were going to create. And originally it was going to be a one-off thing, wasn't it? It was going to be something that was sold as like a package deal. And there was no mention of school.com at that point, because I'm not sure if he was even around.
No, it didn't exist at that point. And that's why I was going to say that, we were originally building out to be a certification, but ultimately the way it is now, we still think that it's going to help many, many people. And that's when you mentioned about an education company. And at the time, I never really thought like an expert who could provide that kind of level of education. But as we've gone through it, you start to go through the things that you do know, and you start to realize that even just having conversations with people, that some of the information that I sometimes feel is quite beginner is actually really valuable to people. So that's been a great thing to do, is being able to learn how to break down quite complex topics in a simple way to complete beginners, to actually help them kind of get their first jobs. And Josh mentioned some of the CVs that I've been able to go through, and we've got if I know he's probably listening, but Den's, he's been there since day one, but he's actually got an interview now, and he's going through to the second stage, and I think he's got through to the third stage. So it's definitely working, and we want to help more people like him as well.
More things to celebrate. That's awesome, and I think that mission is that wanting to help people kind of get into it, because we've all didn't think, hey, maybe we couldn't make it in here, and then we've had mentorship. Robbie, you were my mentor when I sat down on day one, because you were in the same team that I was in. That was so helpful. AJ, you were a mentor before I even got my first job. Vaughan, you came in the company a little bit after me, and I think I wasn't your mentor by any means, but I do remember trying to pass down a little bit. Here's the source. You want to come sit by me, this stuff. So it's part of cybersecurity in our lives anyway, and it's great to be able to kind of do that at scale and realize there's so much to know about cybersecurity that's almost the most difficult thing about it. You're starting off. Where do I start? So many people tell me there's different fundamental pieces here. There's a lot of it's not relevant, right? A lot of the stuff that I've sat down and learned, I've never used in my life. So this course was about us trying to find what do we actually need to know in our first job? What are the actual kind of practical skills? I'm not neglecting the fundamental concept to understand, make sure we're building on solid ground. But the course was very big, and we trimmed it down to what we want to focus on for this first stage, right? The first stage being the focus on how to get your first job. If you don't have any experience in cybersecurity already, maybe you're likely in IT trying to transition over, maybe you've done some sort of higher education, you want to kind of reskill. So does anyone want to take a stab at kind of what some of the course, maybe the pieces of the course they worked on, why we thought that's a great place to begin?
Yeah, for sure. I can start. With empirical training, one of the main things we want to do, as outlined previously, is help people get into cybersecurity. It's worth noting that when we was trying to come up with the idea of what empirical training could actually teach, we knew that we want to help people get in, we want to transfer knowledge, but what exact knowledge needed to be transferred in order to enable people to actually get into cybersecurity. And Rob, I'm sure you can remember, we would do interview after interview with people with masters, people trying to come in with no background experience. And one thing, they all seem to be missing the same pieces of the puzzle. And those main things were around SIEM, customer relations, parts of instant triage, mainly the hands-on skills that are required from actually having a job in a SOC. You can learn all the theory you like in university. However, those hands-on experience is really going to be the make or break around actually getting into the field. So one thing that we actually wanted to try and tailor the course around was all of these different elements. Alongside those, for the people that didn't have that university background experience, we wanted to help shine a bit of a guiding light on what information they actually needed to get in, which comes into the section, or one of the sections of the course that I worked on, which is the entry level certification breakdown. So in there, I talk about the different certifications that someone with no experience in IT can pick up and learn and work through, and by the end of the pathway, ultimately be in a prime position to actually land a job.
Yeah, I think it's about direction. It's about having a nice games, like solid game plan, because I didn't really have the best game plan. I was kind of winging it in the beginning and speaking with my mentor, which hopefully we're going to be able to get him on the pod soon, which would be unbelievable. But yeah, having a solid game plan, working methodically through these courses and ticking off some of the core principles and concepts that you will get asked about in an interview setting. There's a course in there that I created, which was basically the foundations of cybersecurity. So breaking down like the core principles, looking at some frameworks, which are really important. Obviously, fundamentals of networking, which is a staple. And then looking at some tools like Vaughan was mentioning before, like if you're working in a blue team role, you're going to be using some form of a SIEM, whether it's proprietary or most of the time it's going to be third party. So breaking down what a SIEM is, how it works, the different functionalities, and looking at some of the questions that you might get asked on that. And then also breaking down threat intelligence and threat hunting, the relationship between the two. Myself and Vaughan have interviewed multiple people that have, again, had a master's degree or they've fresh out of uni. We ask them, like, can you break down what a SIEM does? Or can you discuss the process of threat hunting and the like threat intelligence research, how they link together? And they can't answer those questions. And it's all very, from our point of view, it seems like trivial stuff that somebody should know in that position with the amount of money that they've invested at that particular moment in time, which is really, really sad. And again, that's our whole mission statement, isn't it? To lower the barrier to entry for information on cyber. We're encouraging people, you don't have to get into thousands and thousands of pounds worth of debt to get the knowledge that you actually need to land that first job, because you're going for that junior level blue team SOC analyst role. And in truth, that there's not a lot of expectation placed upon you as a junior. I think that's really important to bring up, isn't it? Because you're sheltered from a lot of the responsibilities. When you first start as a junior, you're allowed that time as well to engage in training and to upskill and to get your competency to where it needs to be. even in terms of incident triage, when you're working through these customer incidents, they might shelter you from the quote unquote harder ones. So you really only have to have a base level foundational knowledge of all of the concepts, and that's what we're trying to achieve with the course. And we originally spoke about having it as a one-off course we were going to sell as like an actual one-off price, and then try and turn it into a full-on certification and get it approved by the powers that be. But we've opted for this mode instead, and there's a course that's included in the gold tier that talks about the method of building out an evidence portfolio pack. And I think it's huge, and not a lot of people are doing it. We had a podcast with Cyber Charlie. Check that one out. I think both of them are live now. And I don't know which part it is, Cyber part 1 or part 2. He talks about going into an interview and pulling up a GitHub repo of all of the work that he's done previously, and literally showing that he has a particular skill in that niche area that is DevSecOps. Because you've got a CV, you're telling somebody that you have experience, and then an evidence portfolio pack is digital evidence, and you're showing an employer. You're not just saying, I have experience working with a SIEM. Well, here's some evidence to show you me working in a SIEM, and I can narrate over the top of this video to show exactly what I'm doing and breaking down this particular skill. I think is a game changer. You obviously got to have specific certifications nowadays to get the tick box exercise, like your base level CompTIA certifications. But yeah, I genuinely do think that this is going to be a bit of a game changer, showcasing all of these skills, and we're going to help you along with that.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. I mean, that it depends on the security leader, but you might even show a hiring manager and they're like, whoa, they can do more than I can do, because they don't always know how to actually work some of these tools. But like there's one thing I learned from going to university, right? People who haven't heard my origin story podcast, I studied law and then I did a master's in classics and ancient history, right? Completely irrelevant to cybersecurity. But what university really does is teaches you how to learn stuff quickly, because you don't really go, even law, where you spend a lot of time learning case law, you don't really go into that expecting, okay, now you know everything, we'll just put you to work, right? Like you were saying, Rob, about that junior analyst, they are going to train you up. It would be irresponsible of them to let you loose and start doing things, because you might mess it all up, and then that they got to kind of claw back onto that. So yeah, it's about showing that you have that affinity for learning, that you can kind of get into these new topics, and you can do it. And if you're already exposed to the stuff that's actually going to happen in your job, SIEM was the module that I was responsible for, which is actually really interesting to dive into that and realize, wow, I didn't know this stuff when I first started as a security analyst. Actually, I very much knew what the narrow focus of what I was doing, which is really triage, which I believe is the module that AJ you covered. But when I was doing all the kind of the back end of okay, how do we actually start scoping it out? How do we actually start piping the data in? And this really crossed over in a lot of the sales stuff I was doing when I was selling and deploying SIEM-like technologies, and then helping people kind of architect that in their environments, and then and how it facilitates all the different kind of the different tasks that are within there. And there's actually so much to cover. Vaughan, one of the points when you and I did the demo, I kept having to say on the demo, hey, and guys, if you can't do this, don't worry. That's not the point right now. We're not trying to teach you how to be able to do everything in SIEM. We're just trying to let you know all of the components within SIEM, so that you can understand where you fit into this grand picture of cybersecurity for whatever organization you end up working on.
Yeah, I think that was the section where we was talking about the query language that you actually use to parse and search the logs. The query I was building out off the fly was quite complicated, and I was running into some issues just trying to get stuff back. And yeah, you had to reaffirm that you weren't expected to know this sort of stuff on day one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's important. Yeah,
Sorry, Andy,
I think that's why it's
I can't do the query language still. I still have to Google it.
Yeah, no. I'm the same with that as well, to be fair. No, that's what I was saying. I'm exactly the same with that as well. And the whole point of the way that we've set this up is, you'll see a lot of us when we're talking through a lot of the courses, is that we're not expecting you to remember all of this information, because there is so much information in cybersecurity, and especially when you're starting out. But we've tried to break it down, that the information that we've got in there, even underneath the video, we've got kind of a concise overview of what the video contains, so you can just switch quickly back to it and just get the information that you need. But the way that we try to set it up is to focus it on a cybersecurity SOC analyst, because there's so many roles out there, and when you're starting out, sometimes it's hard to know exactly where to go. The reason that we've picked a SOC analyst or a blue team analyst is because that's where we all started. There's still many jobs out there that are looking for junior analysts, and like Robbie said, the junior analyst, there's a lot less expectation, but as soon as you get that foot in the door, you get that 1 year's worth of experience, you can start pivoting then to other roles. But ultimately, the whole point of this then is to help you get that foot in the door, to be able to say on your CV that you've got 1 year's worth of experience. And that's where the things that I was covering was things such as understanding cyber attacks. And again, it goes to, you don't need to remember every single attack. There's a new attack techniques, new attack vectors that come in every single day. But what we tried to do is cover the most common ones. So you obviously got things such as malware, and we're talking through the different types of malware, different kind of detection and mitigation strategies. Of course, things such as network-based attacks and web application attacks. Similar again, we're talking through the attack, talking through different types of attacks, and then also giving you understanding of how to detect these and put mitigation strategies in place. But again, you're not going to be expected as a junior analyst to come up with all the detection and mitigation strategies. But if you go into an interview and you say, I understand that we need to put this SIEM signature in place, for example, to detect this type of web application attack, it's putting you in that mind frame of not just being a kind of a blue teamer, but you're also thinking of a red teamer as well, where you're thinking both sides, which ultimately you need to be able to do when you're going to be a SOC analyst. So that's kind of how we tried to structure it in a way that can really help you get that first role.
Yeah, and one of the things that we tried to outline with these courses as well is we've always thought of them from a interview perspective. So all of the information that we include in all of these different classrooms, we're gearing towards, okay, if you're asked a question on this in an interview, will you understand the amount of information required to answer it successfully? So for all of the different topics, all the different classrooms, after going through them, you should have a really great understanding of that topic. It doesn't go into every specific detail. It doesn't go right into depth on every single feature of a SIEM, for example, or as AJ said, every single feature or technique in cyber attacks. We're trying to give you that information that you're going to need to get that first job by passing the interviews.
Mm-hmm. And you're always learning. There's always more to be learned about our remote code execution attacks. There's always a new exploit that's coming out, even if you're 20 years in the industry. So this is like something you just got to get used to. And so just by setting you up with that different foundation, the different pieces is really important. And Rob, I'm just looking at the modules we've got. I want to make sure we kind of cover the different bits we all worked on and why we did it and what's within it. Give it a little teaser. The principles of cybersecurity, I just flashed that one up to remind myself. And I was thinking, wow, these are some kind of CISO level concepts in some of these pieces that I'm seeing, like that you don't necessarily need to know as an analyst. I'm looking at zero trust architecture. I'm looking at CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability triad. So what was the idea behind that module, and what kind of stuff did you create for that?
Yeah, I mean, these are the backbone principles of security in general, aren't they? And the whole notion of never trust, always verify. I filmed a short form video the other day, and I think that was the tagline at the very end. And we're going to be talking about scams in the next pod, but it's all of these security measures that companies put in place to increase their security. And talking about cybersecurity frameworks, the kill chain, the MITRE ATT&CK framework, the differences between the two, because there are some slight differences. Like, we use them on a daily basis, the frameworks, and they're just so important, aren't they? And then again, you've got ethical and legal considerations. That's super important to talk about the principle of having consent when you go for pen testing engagements. I know that this is like a blue team focused course and all of the classrooms are focused towards blue team, but I think it is still important to cover some of the red team principles and why you have to get consent and what are the boundaries and what's the definition of an ethical hacker and what they can do, what they can't do, what the legal ramifications are of some actions. Yeah, it probably is a little bit too much information, but I did just try and stay a little bit high level on that information. But we're trying to spark your interest on certain topics. Like we've mentioned before, it's all high level stuff. We're not going into too much detail, but we're putting those concepts out there like CIA triad, zero trust, principle of least privilege. And it's for up to us to give a definition, give some examples, but then for you guys as the student to take those, list them down, look on your skills matrix, or when you're doing your collecting or collating your evidence portfolio pack, and think, I think if I was going to take an educated guess, if I'm going for an interview for a job, they might ask me on some of these security principles like zero trust or the principle of least privilege. So I better write up a little cheeky answer there and have that ready to fire, because that's going to come up.
There's a real big concept in that. I think I really love this module because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, it doesn't go a million miles deep, but it doesn't scratch the surface either. These are good understanding of all of these concepts, and you really call out the different terms within cybersecurity, because so many times I've seen people in all sorts of levels of cybersecurity just using the wrong language, and it makes you look like a bit of an idiot. Detection versus prevention, that was difference there. Containment versus eradication versus remediation. These terms kind of matter that you use it in the right way, and I bet anyone who takes that module would be able to have a good conversation with executive level security leaders, and you'd come out with them thinking, this person really, really gets it, right? Because almost security leaders almost are that 100-foot level looking down. They don't know the weeds of all these things, but they absolutely understand the concept of principle of least privilege, and they want to go in and enact that, and they're going to direct their security teams to do it. They couldn't be able to do it themselves, but that's a great place for you to kind of start, because if you know you can talk about these good concepts, then you can find the one that interests you and dive into enacting that, or know where to look as well, because half of this is knowing what to Google when stuff comes across in your day-to-day life.
I was covering slightly a little bit earlier, where it just explains like the baseline cyber attack categories that are out there. So obviously things such as malware, network-based attacks, and social engineering. We obviously dive into email attacks as well. So in that section, I show you an example phishing email and to help you kind of understand what to look out for. Because as a cybersecurity analyst, you're going to be expected to review the various email attacks that are out there, especially phishing. And a lot of attackers these days use email attacks as their main form of delivery. So that was the idea here, is just to give you that kind of baseline understanding and fundamentals of these different cyber attacks then, so you can take that into your first role as an analyst. But one of the other sections I also worked on was incident alert triage essentials. So this is just talking through the purpose and importance of what incident and alert triage is. And that's something that I've noticed being in cybersecurity, that sometimes incident and alerts often get coined as the same term. So the way that I've explained it in the course is that usually alerts are kind of the common events that are generated based on a set of signatures, and then it's up to you as an analyst to review those alerts and get an understanding if it needs to be escalated into an incident, and then that incident then is usually some sort of impact to the company, whether it be low, medium, or critical, or high and critical. It just gives you an idea of how to analyze alerts and how to actually analyze incidents. So in terms of incidents, we go into the SANS incident response plan and the different phases of that incident response plan, so that you know when an incident is to occur, you know what to do. Because as a junior analyst, you're likely not going to always be part of those incidents. It usually depends on the size of the company. You either might be escalating to more senior analysts, or maybe you will be expected to manage incidents, and that's kind of what we're talking through in this course as well. We also cover some of the tools and technologies that are used for triaging. So SIEM is obviously, we have a whole course on SIEM itself, because it is one of the tools, the major tools that is used by cybersecurity analysts. But we also cover things such as ticketing systems, endpoint detection and response, EDR tools, forensic tools, sandboxing solutions. So we try to give you the baseline of what we believe cybersecurity analysts are currently using, and what we use on a daily basis. So I still work in incident response, which similar. A lot of the stuff that I do on a daily basis forms to what most analysts are doing. So we have a good idea of what cybersecurity analysts are doing, and we're just trying to give you the baseline of what that is, instead of trying to give you every single piece of information. We're just trying to give you the most important pieces of information, so you can take that and actually take some action on it, which is what we need from you. If you're looking to take any of these courses, is you're more than welcome to just go through them, but the whole point here is that you take action after it, which is why I also covered another course, which is actually interview preparation and actually how to master job applications. So a lot of that is often lost. So there's a lot of technical skills in what we're talking about, but there's also professional skills, the communication, and you need to understand how to actually formulate your CV, formulate your resume, even just applying for jobs. Sometimes there's a long-winded process applying for jobs. You've got to write maybe a cover letter and things like that. All of that we teach you in the course where we're covering mastering job applications and interview preparation. So it's not just technical skills here. We're trying to fit in each stage of our course, is kind of leading you up ultimately to be able to get that first job. And that's why we've broken it down into this way. For the first phase is showing you how to get a job from A to B, which is what our main goal here is to actually get you that first job.
It can be a bit overwhelming for people as well, because when you're referencing SIEM, there's so many different SIEMs, but we're breaking down the functionality of a SIEM in like generalistic terms. Yeah, we do have some other courses that we're going to be creating in another tier, which I don't even know whether we want to speak about right now. Maybe it's a little bit too much information.
Let's celebrate this.
Yeah, of course. But we're breaking down a SIEM in its general form, like the functionalities, so like log ingestion, and then we've got incident triage and data orchestration, and then you can apply those concepts to any SIEM. It doesn't matter. Yeah, the query language might differ slightly, but the way you write rules and the way that you ingest log data and parse that and normalize it, it's all fairly one of the same, which is powerful when you find that out. And again, it's like ticketing systems. You learn one ticketing system and you learn the different ways that they work in a ticket life cycle, then you can work another one. We were talking on the podcast again with Cyber Charlie, asking him questions about which cloud should I learn. And he's like, well, you learn one. If you learn AWS, then you've pretty much got all of the concepts, all of the different resources and things that sit inside AWS. They're in Microsoft Azure. They just have a different name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. I think I saw that myself when I sat down with Vaughan to go through some of the demo vids in Sentinel, because I've not used Sentinel as an analyst before. I've used other SIEMs, other tooling. And within a few minutes of Vaughan showing me where things were, I was like, oh yeah, this doesn't look alien to me at all now. I can almost feel like I'm fully ready to go, because it's completely scalable, transferable skills. And AJ, back to what you said about that module, I think those are different attack types, and that's really great. That's where I started when I went to cybersecurity, because I have to find something that really interests me. And to be honest, like data orchestration isn't it? But when I started looking at the other side, the actual attacks are what they do on YouTube. The computer file was where I started. That was awesome. Now I need to work back and understand how they kind of got to here. That for me is, I like to start with the interesting thing and then fill in all the gaps afterwards. And final bit, like talked about there's overlap with this, and like you run some things you said there, alert versus incident. That's something I cover off in my module. There's threat hunting introduction. I cover off threat hunting in my one as well, which I think, you might think, oh, that's repetitive. I don't want to do this. Of course, I'm going to have people repeating it. But now we divided this up to divide and conquer, because we have different experiences, and you're going to hear it delivered from different ways and tied to our different experiences in our professional lives. So it's going to reinforce it. You're also going to get it in different contexts each time, which actually I think is a much better way of learning it than having to go, because no one wants to rewatch anything. You want it to be gently reinforced. Miyagi people. That's the concept. in work. You can't tell
Yeah.
them what to do. You got to show it by accident.
But yeah, I agree with what you were saying there, Josh, that when you started off, you focused on attack types. And I was very similar. My background, if you listen to my origin story, was just in business and IT. I didn't have any cybersecurity experience. When I joined the company that we first worked for, I didn't know what a SIEM was. I didn't even know what a VPN was. I didn't know a lot of these concepts, but I was taught how to analyze alerts. I didn't know where these alerts were coming from. I didn't know how they were generated. But what I got good at was actually analyzing the alerts and being able to determine if they were successful or not. But as I then started to progress, I started to understand the various systems that were out there and where these logs were generating from and why different parts of the network need to be protected for these reasons. And if I could do it without having that experience, then for sure after you go through this course, you're going to be in a much better place than I definitely was. Because I remember starting and being like, yeah, this is definitely out of my depth. I don't feel like I should be here. But you have some good mentors. You progress through and you start learning the fundamentals that even what Robbie has covered in the cybersecurity fundamentals course. I didn't really know that because I didn't cover that in my degree. Most of it was self-learning that I did in my dissertation, which was a penetration testing report, but still that was just focusing on specific topics rather than the overall fundamentals of cybersecurity. So yeah, I think what we've got here for us anyway seems good. I'm sure we'll get some feedback, which we definitely want.
And to AJ's point as well, one of the things we've tried to hit on is illuminating, as we've mentioned, a lot of the areas that are required, not only just to get into cybersecurity, but to help you thrive when you first get into cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started in my cybersecurity career, I was itching to learn more information. I wanted left, right, and center, but my problem was I didn't know what to look at and what to learn. Like I knew there was all these different avenues of all these exciting different areas, but I didn't know where they were or how to find them. So that's part of what we're trying to do here as well, is illuminate some of these different areas to, as Josh mentioned, pique your interest and hopefully get that ball rolling with your learning around those.
Mm-hmm. And I've almost realized a tagline for this is, I wrote it down as we were talking. If you do this course, you're going to be better junior analysts than we were, and we're doing all right for ourselves. So that's a pretty good starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, spot on.
But Vaughan, I think the last kind of the module that you were responsible for, I know we're coming up on time, but you want to give us an overview of why you did that, why that's important, and why you kind of your experience lended itself to that?
Yeah, definitely. So for anyone that doesn't know, the final course that I worked on was called Customer Relations Excellence. And I mentioned in the course, for anyone listening, you might think, what an absolute bore. Why do I want to learn about this or listen to this one? But
That's why it's last.
yeah, but it's not a hard skill. Like learning SQL injection attacks and how they happen. That's a hard skill that you learn. Like not in terms of like it's difficult, but like hard versus soft skills. But being able to speak to customers and engage with customers is a soft skill, but it's probably one of the most important soft skills in cybersecurity. You're going to be liaising with customers left, right, and center. You're writing incident notes. You're calling customers to let them know that they've been hacked. There's certain ways you need to go about these things in order to convey not just a professional approach, but an empathetic approach, and all of these very important elements. Some of the things I go over in the course is effective communication, managing customer expectations, so trying to under-promise and over-deliver. So maybe saying you're going to get something done by the end of the week, but then you actually get it done by a Wednesday. That's really shining a good light on not only yourself, but the business. And it's also important to remember that the SOC service that you're providing, it is a business, it's a service for the customer. They're on some sort of contract, maybe you want them to renew. So it's important to give a good service that they enjoy, so they are more inclined to renew at the end of it.
Yeah, no, I was going to lead on to the point there that it's hugely important to have the great customer service in cybersecurity. We'll talk about managed service providers and internal SOCs as well. So internal SOCs are usually still working with other employees who ultimately they are your customers as well. So you need to be able to respond to them in a timely manner and make sure that your word is your word and stick to it. And we're trying to help out there. So there's different takeaways, like downloadable content that you can take. So we've got email escalation templates, so you can look at our template, and it's an easy, quick template that you can just fill in. You can add in the information that is necessary, but it's simple things like that. I remember in the place that we first started, there was a lot of analysts there that felt really uncomfortable just sending an email to customers, and they would always ask people to triple check it. And I'd worked in a estate agency, so I'd been replying to emails and felt confident in replying to emails with as long as you're replying with accurate information and you're doing it in a polite way, you shouldn't feel uncomfortable. But there was a lot of people who had come out of university doing cybersecurity degrees, but they just didn't want to write emails. They didn't want to get on phone calls. So by being able to feel more confident in the kind of customer excellence area, it can really make you stand out as an analyst if you are less technical, like I was at the time.
And that leads brilliantly into another one of the topics that I completely forgot to mention. Not topics, but sections under the customer relations module, which is handling difficult customers. If I had the information in that one at the start of my career, I would have been more of a happy chappy. That's definitely one not to miss.
That happens as well a lot, more than you would think.
Yeah. Did you take that personally, Vaughan? Did you feel every negative comment?
I took it very personally, and it was very much a case of trying to, calm your tempers, and it's trying to kill them with professionalism, right? You always want to be professional and almost try and teach yourself to get a kick out of being professional. Like they're trying to pull a rise out to you, be like, no, I'm gonna stay calm, stay composed, and rub it in your face that way instead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry you feel that way, sir.
Yeah, literally. If there's anything else we can do, please do let me know.
I'm sorry you feel that way, sir, but if I can't security vet you, I cannot disclose any information about this incident. I'm the CEO! I'm sorry. What's the safe word?
It's like Wolf of Wall Street, he's on the phone and he's just got a massive middle finger up to it. I don't recommend you do that, but it feels like that sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I had one the other day where I spoke to a customer who wanted to sort something out, and so I connected them up. And then a few weeks later, I got a message saying, did they really say they wanted help with this? Because we've just had an email back that basically said, F off, we don't want to talk to you ever again. We're cancelling our whole subscription. And I was like, they were really nice in person. I don't know what happened there. But no, gents, that is, I think well done again. We've kind of gotten into it, a lot of it, but take a step back and congratulate yourselves, because this has been a long time coming. This is what we set off to do from the beginning, and things like social media, the podcast.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
Has been to be when we're ready for this point to actually have something of value to give out to people who can really make an impact into the cybersecurity industry, just like we did. And like I said, be better analysts than we ever were when we first started as junior analysts, and hopefully carry on talking to us throughout once you get that first job. That's what I'm super excited. When we get these people start to get jobs and they start saying what they're seeing on the front line, and we build this, we evolve, we are available to all these people as well. That's really enjoyable. This isn't just this is a community. It's not just a bunch of videos to go and
definitely
watch. So gents, well done. Superb. I've just lagged out, but well done. Superb. And I guess we'll find this. Yeah, everybody. We'll see everybody else in the next edition of the CyberSpace podcast by Empirical Training. But before I leave, Rob, do you want to tell people where they could get this if they do want to check out some of the stuff we've been talking about?
It's school.com, SKOOL.
School with a K.
School with a K, Empirical Training, the gold tier. Just go there, check it out. Check out the sales video. AJ's broken it down, and you can take a look at all of the different courses. There's going to be a lot of value. You can talk to us in the free community. You can talk to us even more in the gold community. That's a wrap.
But yeah, there's something there for anybody. So come say hello. Come to that free community. There's a lot of things in there. If you do think that course could be something that you might need, we can help connect you into that and give you that higher level of all the knowledge in our brain dumped into one place for you guys, that entry level understanding. So thank you very much, Robbie, Vaughan, AJ. I've been Josh, the Empirical Trainers, and this has been CyberSpace. See you next week.
Thanks everyone.
Wrap.